So Piro has posted a video about ideas being material, that they're basically um, symbolic structures in the brain. They're um, neural networks that at any given moment represent some feature of the world. Though, I think Piro would say that all that we really experience is the symbol or the neural structure or the shape, the structure and function of our own sensory organs. Um, so what the brain actually represents um, isn't in any sense what the world is. Um, Piro says we can't know what the world is, we can only know how it is represented, how it is perceived by the various systems and subsystems of our nervous system. Um, and I'm definitely one who has been heavily influenced by the embodied approach to cognitive science, which is the idea that, the mind is embodied. It is a series of sensory motor loops. And so all of our thoughts are also activities, and we learn to think by learning to use our body, our fingers. The process of learning how to write, um, learning the alphabet, these are shaping the brain itself, and we are internalizing a bodily, movement. And first, it's something that my body has evolved to do with vocal cords and a tongue and lips. And in speaking, I'm actually changing my body, my brain. I'm rewiring the way that my neurons communicate with one another. And so, without doubt, what I'm doing right now in a cultural sense, the ideas that I'm supposedly sharing with you are in some way embedded in my very being. But where I don't agree with Piro is in the idea that the ideas are therefore reducible to some material structure in the brain. It's not that I think that there's some ideal world separated from the real world. It's that the physical world itself is permeated by ideas. Part of the form of my body results from the influence of ideas upon the material substrate. And it's I just referred to this process in a very Aristotelian way, as though it were a material substance informed by some internal essence. And when we talk about it, that's how it ends up sounding. But if we are able to get out of the substance metaphysics that Aristotle really perfected, if we're able to think outside of that box, though, which is difficult because our very language is structured such that there are subjects with predicates, substances with various qualities attributed to them. But for us to think outside that way of conceiving of the world dualistically as a subject apart from an object, we've got to still be able, we've got to be able to conceive of how thoughts, the thinking process is itself not reducible to the brain. The interior state of my organism, which includes my thinking, my feeling, my emotion, all of that has helped to shape this material body. And so it has some sort of causal influence over this material substrate. And so it's not as though you can understand a living organism based solely on its material components. There is something invisible which is responsible for the visible expression. And it's not an extra magical spark, though you could call it that poetically, but it's actually immanent in the matter itself, because the matter isn't a substance. It's a process, and so this process has to continually come into existence. It doesn't simply endure. It has to pulse into and out of existence and strive to be alive, even as matter itself. Matter isn't simply there. It's fluxing into and out of the quantum vacuum. And once we can see the way that our bodies are formed as a process of becoming that's creative, that has access to form, it can form itself. That's matter that's in some way intelligent. It's not mere stuff. It's matter that is not a substance or a stuff, but a process of becoming that has both what we would call physical and what we would call metaphysical or ideal aspects. The physical aspects would be what's very habitual about our behavior, and molecules for the most part are very habitual, especially just gas molecules. They behave in a very lawful way, a way that can be predicted mathematically, very accurately, probabilistically at least. So that part of the physical universe is very habitual, but when matter begins to organize, a single cell is a very complex, self-organizing molecular system. But in order for it to function, it needs molecules to behave in a very habitual way. It needs the DNA sequence to retain its fidelity, to retain its structure, and to repair itself, to remember itself. And so you don't want it to change too often. While, the organism as a whole, of course, you want it to be somewhat flexible so that it can respond in some way freely or willfully, intentionally, to how it is perturbed by its environment. So it's not that ideas are not material, it's that matter is itself permeated by the influence of ideas. Think of ideas like the future which an organism anticipates. It's not present in this, skull right now, but it is something that lures this skull to transform itself such that it can attain that idea. So an idea is really an ideal that this body system process wants to become and can actively pursue. It's not present here yet. It can't be reduced to what's just physically here as this material stuff as we conceive of it. It's beyond this. Let me know if you understand what I'm trying to get at here, and I look forward to seeing where we go with all this. Take it easy.